talk time. This is something I think it's three Saturdays in a row we've done something like this, or at least 3 out of 4. There may have been a wedding or something where I missed one. So, anyways, this is where I just sort of pick a topic. I try to go into detail on it. Never really sure how long these will last. I do have a bunch of notes, as you'll see, but this one is this one's a warning. This is a public service announcement. This is for all the real estate investors with less than 10 years, certainly less than 5 years experience. It's becoming pretty obvious. Again, I have experience in one market. So if your market's still rocking and rolling, good for you. I think it's going to change. But I can already see signs in the market that I invest in that it's different. I see stuff that's staying on the market longer. I see stuff not getting bids. I'm getting phone calls from folks saying, hey, I just want to sell. And again, I don't do any marketing or anything of this nature. It's just the network. Now, nobody has yet taken me up on a price. For example, somebody has a house listed for 240 and is done with it, wants out, all the classic signs. And I let them know that, hey, I could pay 180 for it. Which, of course, they said, oh, I can't do that. That's, this, that, and the other reason. It's not important that they said yes today. It is important that it's changing. Prices are sticky on the way down. And I know this because I invested through the last cycle and I saw it happen just the same way. The consumer sentiment, the market fluctuations, whatever you want to call it, is starting to impact buying decisions of owner occupants. It starts as a trickle. We can already see it at the high end, right? The rich have stopped buying. They've kept their money in the bank. That's going to trickle down to other parts of the economy, and I can already see it in my market, right? There's a couple of properties I've been tracking that a year ago they would have been gone day one, and one of them has been on the market 41 days as of today, and it's shocking to see that. So the real estate market is changing, and this public service announcement, this PSA, this warning, is for any of my real estate friends out there who have less than 5 years, less than 10 years experience. The market's going to change. It's going to impact your business. If you don't get in front of this, it could wipe you out. Hopefully you've done your research at meetups or you've talked to other people and you know that real estate can wipe you out. A lot of you've got addicted to fast cash. A lot of you've got addicted to feeling like you can do no wrong. Well, when the market starts to change, you either get your ego in check, you get small, like I like to say, so you can get through it. Because it's much better to survive than get burned out. So, I have lots of thoughts, lots of different areas to talk about. But in the end, the last 10 years have been the best sellers market, best rise that we've ever seen, right? It came out of the bottom and never looked back. So if a project took an extra month, shoot, it took an extra 3 months, you were rewarded. I think that's time is over. And there's all kinds of things that we can talk about. I think the one that's going to catch the most people is what is this BRRRR movement. BRRRR, buy, repair, rent, refi, repeat, worked like a charm for a decade. You couldn't go wrong. As long as you can get lending on the finished product, it was a wonderful strategy. In a market that is becoming less sure of itself on price and value and appraisals, I fear a lot of you trying to do the BRRRR method are going to get stuck. And as one person indicated earlier, hey, if I get stuck, I'll just sell it. Well, I think that's nice to have options, but you're going to be selling into an environment with more inventory, and thus I don't know that you're going to get your price. And if you get your price, how long's your holding cost going to be? Right? Every month that goes by, your holding cost eats into your profit. So if you go into a strategy of doing BRRRR with the intention of having a long-term hold, realize after 90 days you can't hold it because you can't refi out your cash, you can't pay off the hard money lender, then you have to sell it, you have to switch strategies, then maybe you have to vacate the tenant. It's not as easy as people think. So I would be very suspect of starting a new BRRRR project unless you ran the numbers right. I wouldn't use last year's numbers and models for a BRRRR project. I would get 10% more conservative. Ask yourself what happens if your appraisal value is down 10%. Right? So the BRRRR project can still work. I just think with the number of people trying it and trying it out of state, it's going to end up hurting a lot of people. And you're not going to know why. And I think, unfortunately, some of you may be starting multiple BRRRR projects at the same time, or maybe they're staggered. I'm just here to tell you to be careful. It doesn't feel like it's a great time to start new work. Another area I think is really in trouble is flipping above the median. Right, the last decade or so, flipping houses 2x the median was probably the most profitable thing you could do. You were artificially rewarded given lack of supply with great values. And I think, with the rich, as we've already indicated on multiple videos, sort of putting their credit cards away and stop shopping, it's perhaps going to become the worst time to flip above the median that we've ever seen. And, that's saying something. This maybe takes out the period of like 07 to 09, which nothing made sense. But this is going to be I think, a pretty bad time to flip houses above the median. So be careful. I think people flipping above the median today need to triple their hold periods and see if their hard money cost doesn't eat up all their profits. The real reason that BRRRR and flipping are a problem in today's changing market, as I see it in this warning or PSA, is time. I think time on your exit is going to be a problem. And I think that's the great thing that you gain with experience. In a seller's market, your time to get transactions complete are pretty repetitive. Into a flattening, or heaven forsake, a buyer's market, time becomes your enemy. And time, when you have a hard money cost at 9, 10, 11, 12% monthly, there's going to be a lot of you that ended up exiting projects where you maybe made money on the actual house, but you lost money on your carrying costs, right? It just ate you alive. And, cutting those $5, $6, $8, $10,000 checks to carry an empty house, it's going to hurt. So get small today. Take less projects. Sell something at a small loss instead of hoping to get it later. This is not the time to be a hero. This is the time to survive, right? So realize that carrying cost is going to be the enemy of most of these. All right, if you happen to be in a situation where it's all your money and all you're losing is opportunity cost, good for you. But a lot of people I talk to on this channel at events, they're borrowing money from hard money lenders at 10, 11, 12%. And if you got to hold for an extra 6 months, poof, there goes your profit. That's the problem. Another one that scares me a lot is syndications, specifically new syndications. I've seen the number of, I don't know what you want to call them, opportunities or memorandums or people begging for money increase drastically over the last 6 months. And not that syndications can't work. I think they're great. I can't fathom the number of them all of a sudden into a limited supply market and into a market that frankly is priced for perfection. I believe a lot of the net new syndications done today will not see anywhere close to their returns because I don't think the economy is going to be this good for that long. And as somebody who's owned apartment buildings, owning apartment buildings into rising unemployment sucks. It's terrible. yes, you may get higher occupancy, net occupancy, but you're going to have to go through all kinds of evictions and turnovers, and tenants will move. And maybe you can say at the end of the month you had, you know, higher, you know, people the occupancy. But I can tell you, looking at my tax returns from 2 years where that happened, it's bloody. It's so painful, and it's not a place I'd want to be. So if your syndications are talking about, you know, a preferred return of 6 or 8, but then unemployment jumps from 4 to 8, what are you going to do? It's not going to be fun. My real fear, I have two fears about syndications. One is I believe people are going to tie up their money for twice as long, because eventually the market cycle works itself out, and you know, if you hold on long enough, real estate will take care of you. But most of the offers I've seen had 5 years on it. I think you're going to need to be prepared for 10. There's preferred returns, but they're not guaranteed returns. Uh, my guess is you're not going to see. I was going to say any. I'm going to say most now of that return. And you know, I think there are some providers. We won't know this for years, but serial syndicators. I could see where some of them might say, you know what, let's take some money from this new one, pay off the old one, so our returns look the same. I don't know anybody doing this, and I hope nobody is, but I just see the logic of it. You know, people trying to hold their reputation up, and that's a Ponzi scheme, right? Take it from Peter to pay Paul, and you know, again, we won't know about these for years, I'm sure, but they're out there, and it's tough. So I won't be putting any money in syndications, that's for sure. Next up are kind of vanilla or incomplete remodels, right? Into a market where I suspect supply is going to be increasing. You need to complete the jobs, right? There was a time in this market where if you just did paint and carpet, left the old kitchen cabinets and the old countertops, you'd be good. My guess is into a rising supply environment, that's not going to be the best option. Right? You need to stand out. You need to be the yes answer. You don't want to be yes but. I love the house, but I love this, but right. You need to nail it the first time. So I believe you know, if you are doing these flips or burst strategies or whatever you want to do, and you need an exit from an owner occupant or a buyer, I think you're going to spend a little more on your remodels because you're going to want to stand out, and that's going to again squeeze profits. So that's interesting. Another one are value add in the single family space. You know, maybe you're very good at buying 2 bedroom, 1 bath bungalows and turning them into 3 bedroom, 2 baths, but there's a 6 month permitting process, like, you know, all of that stuff. I think into an environment where prices may be softening, not that that strategy can't work, but you better be uber aggressive on your upfront price. Because that's the key to real estate. No matter what you're doing, is your money's made when you buy. And believe me, I didn't understand that statement when I started 15 years ago, but now believe it to be so certain. It's you make your money when you buy. So you know, taking on lots of projects with long time frames before you ever start doing something would be, now is not the time, unless you just get a screaming deal and it's half off or whatever. But be ultra conservative. And then there's another one, and I actually have a friend, I'm not sure if he's going to see this, but he'll know if he watches this, who's suddenly looking out of state. This individual is killing it in his market. And, you know, he has now picked up an out of state. He's actually flown out there. And you get enamored with that. The numbers look different. It feels like you have to do it to keep going and growing and growing. But again, I've seen people do this before. Right? They get comfortable. They feel like they have to do something different into a changing market, and it can crush you. Because what happens in that other market if unemployment goes up? Right? What happens in that other state, buddy, if unemployment goes up? There's a reason that those houses have been so cheap for so long. Yes, in our California eyes, I understand why they look good, but it's fool's gold. 10 years ago, it made sense. 5 years ago, it made sense. Today, where the market is as good as it's ever been, and unemployment can only go one way, it's, I wish you the nothing but luck. I'm trying to call you to talk to you about this, but I just have reservations about going out of state today where you have to build a whole new team. You're going to have your errors. You're not going to know the market and the streets. And you just, how can you know another state how you know the market you've lived in your entire life? You just can't. And I think into a changing market, it's tough to throw down new chips in a new area and just think it's going to work out the same way. So I think that's interesting. But, those are all my warnings. Um, again, as I kind of highlighted in our book, we invested through the last changing market. But again, we were buy and hold investors, right? And I've told you all in many, many, many different videos, you need to think in decades. So if you are a buy and hold investor, if you learn your market, you know what average is, great. Pull the trigger, write the offer, make the deal. Because I really believe today could be one of the best times to start being a landlord, to start being buy and hold. What happens if you pay $5,000 too much today, but you lock in financing for 30 years that you'll never see again? Think about it. If you pay $5,000 too much today, but you get an interest rate that's 1.5 lower than any other time you could have for 30 years, you come out way ahead. So yes, is the market perhaps changing for buy and hold investors also, as my earlier warnings indicated? Sure. But the beauty of buy and hold investors is we're thinking in decades and we can let time help us. Earlier, time hurt everyone. If you're doing BRRRR, time hurt. If you're flipping, time hurt. If you're, buying out of state, time hurt, right? Just time hurts everyone except buy and hold investors. This is why I keep talking about you need to investigate your market, you need to learn your market, you need to find out what average is, so that when you know what average is, you can know when something's on sale, right? So this is a great time to be a buy and hold investor because inventory will be rising, competition from owner occupants will be falling as they get scared. A lot of the real estate investors that I've just given warning to won't listen, and they will not be a problem in a year when they're out of business, or at least much smaller. So I think this is a great time. 30-year money, cheap debt, go get it, right? Lock it in, be happy, celebrate, and let's have some fun. So that was our coffee talk of the day, my warning or public service announcement to real estate investors. As always, hit that like button, leave a comment if you have a question. Let me know if I'm wrong. I take feedback. But at the end of the day, have a great long weekend and take care. Bye.